Washington Wizards have lost 16 straight games and somewhat quietly are on pace to win fewer games between last season and this season than the Sixers did. The process Sixers in 2015 and
Worst
2016.
win percentage in NBA history, yeah?
Over the 2 years. Yeah. I mean, the process Sixers won 28 games in 2 years. The Wizards are on pace to win 25 in 2
I
years.
want to say they've got the lowest win percentage in a single season in NBA history.
The 2012
Those are
Bobcats
the Bobcats.
7-59 Bobcats. And then let's not forget, Logan, the 1973 Sixers went 9-73, but you do have the 2016 Sixers went 10-72. And I thought that we might never see tanking replicated at that level, and here we are. The Wizards are doing it at a historic level. What are they doing it for, though, Logan? Who are they tanking for? Trying to get that number one pick. Is it Cooper Flagg or is it Ace Bailey? Who is more worthy of all of this misery that Washington fans are enduring right now with Kyle Kuzma and whatnot?
Well, I mean, I've been on the side of Cooper Flagg for a while. I mean, he's been my number one guy, and I don't think I'm going to move off of that. Now, I mean, I'm working my way slowly but surely through the 2025 NBA draft class, so I'll see if there are any, sleepers that'll move into my top 10, top 5, etc. But Cooper is number one stamp to me. I think Cooper Flagg is the total package. And one, I agree. I never thought we would see, just because of how talented basketball players are now, like the league is just more talented than ever. I didn't know if it was going to be possible to lose on this scale, but the Wizards are just that young and bad. Like their roster just really is that far away. Like they have done such a bang-up job of, I mean, from eras, right? Like they took a downturn when the Gilbert Arena stuff crashed and burned and they walked into John Wall, and then post John Wall you've got the Bradley Beal team, and then I mean it's kind of funny, but I think Cooper's going to be the man, dude. I think he's the total package. Like we were talking about Amen, right, and how sometimes I think Amen's brilliance as an athlete can kind of overshadow how smart they are, but that's why I'm so confident in Cooper is I hate using these like intangibles as like, but positioning, feel, basketball IQ, Cooper Flagg gets it. I think he has great basketball instincts. And why I'm so confident in him is very similar to Amen. I think he's going to be really impactful off ball immediately, reading and reacting to the defense, naturally finding open space. He's good within the flow of the offense. And I think he's going to be a great spot-up player and roll man immediately. Attacking closeouts and advantages off the catch in general. I think Cooper is a guy who's really clever and deceptive with how he uses head fakes, jab stuff to set up defenders and then get into something else he's really good at. And he can score at all three levels. I mean, he's got great touch, footwork, a butting back to the basket game. He's athletic. He's strong. He plays with physicality. And that's just on offense. I think you're also getting a versatile and impactful defender. I think you're getting a good rebounder. There's just no way that Flagg isn't an all-around impactful basketball player. And he just makes it look so easy. It looks so effortless with Coop sometimes. And the thing that's going to really determine his ceiling to me is just how great he can be as that on-ball lead guy. And I don't know if that's his ideal role. Maybe Coop's best role is a 2 or a 3, but that's what's going to be his ceiling, is how great he can be as a on-ball scorer and playmaker. But I already think he's really good at both. I think he's naturally going to grow and get better at them. Again, the guy's 17. I don't have a player comparison for him. I don't. Like, I'm going to watch some old tape on guys too, but I've never seen anybody like Cooper. I think he's the total package. So I don't know, man. I like Ace Bailey a little bit. This isn't like an anti-Ace thing. I'll get to that in a minute. But like the tenet of this take is that I just think Cooper Flagg is the unequivocal number one in this class. I think that he is the best prospect. And I think regardless of the level he reaches as a scorer and a playmaker, you're getting a guy that impacts the game in every facet. And that's why I want him on my team. I think he's going to be an immediate impact winner.
Totally agree, man. Cooper Flagg is on my Mount Rushmore of 2020's prospects. He's there with Wemby, Chet, Mobley. Shout out Cade. He would be the fifth guy if we're doing a top five. But we're not. We're doing a Mount Rushmore, and Cooper is on there. And I made a video about him before his collegiate season even started. He is 18 now, but he's a very young 18. He just turned 18 in late December because he did reclassify. He is such an incredibly high floor player. If he's not a star in the NBA, I would just be absolutely shocked. It's such an incredible combination of on and off ball value, perimeter defense being a real plus, but his interior defense being just like a total outlier for a wing, right? He's one of the bounciest dudes you'll see. He has incredible instincts on both sides of the ball. My comparison for him was like an Andrei Kirilenko with more offensive upside. And nobody disrespect AK-47 because that's one of the craziest, versatile, do-it-all talents that you saw in the 2000s decade. He was ahead of his time and was an all-NBA level impact guy at his best because he was such a freak defensively and good passer, really good athlete, really good rebounder, just not a super high-end scorer. I think that Flagg has more upside as a scorer and as a creator offensively overall. And I honestly have gotten even higher on his upside there since he started playing at Duke. The production is so impressive, 28-4 on 59% true shooting, and you have to consider that is with elite defense. But the offensive versatility is so impressive with him. And he isn't the most comfortable ball handler. That's something that I would like to see improve, and so sometimes the turnovers can be a little bit bad with him. But as a pick and roll creator, he's in the 72nd percentile. That's a little bit ahead of schedule for where I expected him to be. And it's the passing, man. Just his ability to survey the floor, doesn't rush his reads, is able to very quickly dissect things. Very impressive. As a spot-up player, he's been really good. The shot with him, it's not a question mark. Like, I'm confident that Cooper Flagg is at least going to be a solid three-point shooter at the NBA level. It's just a question of how good is he going to be? I expect him to be a pretty good catch and shooter. I don't know how comfortable he'll be as a pull-up shooter necessarily, but I think that his shot has been trending in the right direction as well. You mentioned some of the back-to-basket stuff, some of the mismatch attacking. He's been a 90th percentile post-up scorer. Super impressive. But then he's also a monster in transition because of his athleticism in the full court, consistently showed elite feel as a cutter and as an offensive rebounder. There's a lot of the stuff that we talk about a man doing, right? When you're a freak athlete and you also really get it and you really care, you can just impact the game in so many different ways. And Cooper Flagg also has had that. But then he does have some more of those foundational skills when you're talking about, obviously, a much more solid foundation as a shooter. I do think that his feel in terms of connective passing is better even than an Amen's. I don't think that he is a guy who is an offensive number one for you if you're trying to win a title. I do think he is a guy who can be your best overall player, though. Like, this is not a one-to-one comparison whatsoever, but what I thought initially watching him in high school was like, this is a guy with a Scottie Pippen sort of impact on the game, where he's one of the best players because he is so damn good at everything on both sides of the ball, but he's probably not going to go out there and score 27, 28 points per game for you. So maybe he's the ultimate number two, or maybe he's a really, really good number one who just doesn't have those crazy raw scoring numbers. And I feel confident that we're looking at a guy who is honestly going to be an all-NBA player. I think that Flagg is that great. I think that he's almost as sure a thing as you get with the number one overall pick. I feel very differently about Ace Bailey. And this is sort of a fake question that we started off with this whole premise. Like, but there are some people who think that Ace Bailey is the best prospect in this draft. They are probably the biggest Melo fans that you've ever met in your life. Like, I think they're just people who are obsessed with tough shot making. I feel pretty confident saying that Ace Bailey is not going to be an offensive star at the NBA level. He's not going to be a high-end shot creator. It's not happening. He has too many glaring red flags. Really lacks a quick first step and lacks comfort as a ball handler. That's already a major red flag. That means you can't create advantages if you're not comfortable handling and if you don't get by people. And if you can't create advantages, well, then you're going to live on a tough shot diet. And that's not a good thing. But he also really lacks strength. and really lacks physicality as a driver, which is the one thing that you do need if you don't have that high-end first step. He doesn't have that. So he's only 19th percentile in terms of rim frequency, and he is a really, really gifted shot maker. He is. But on ball, he's living off a lot of these two-point jump shots, and as good a shot maker as he is, he only makes 40% of them, man. I mean, he is routinely rising up with 0 separation, and that is incredibly difficult for any player to turn into a remotely efficient shot diet. And then on top of all this, he is severely lacking as a playmaker. He will put up one of those tough shots before he looks to create for another teammate. A vast majority of the time, he's got a 0.8 to 2.1 assist to turnover ratio. So if you can't comfortably handle, or you can't get past people either, you can't get to the rim, and you can't play make, there isn't a path to offensive stardom. No star in basketball looks like that. There are guys who do make their living off of tough shot making, but those guys are also really good ball handlers, right? If it's Chris Middleton, those guys are also good playmakers. Those guys are also strong, right? You don't have to be a super high-end athlete. You don't have to get to the rim a lot, although I much prefer that you do. But you have to have other things that you do at a really high level other than just, oh, I can rise up and shoot over you. But he can still be a really good player. He's just not going to be that sort of on-ball star that I think some people want him to be, because they're like, oh my God, that looks like KD. And it's like, no, man, young KD was a hell of an athlete, got to the rim a ton, got to the line a ton, and obviously KD didn't start as a great playmaker, but was always more of a playmaker than Ace Bailey is. KD is also 7 foot, handles the ball way better. Like, that's not a conversation we should be having. You should never compare anybody to Kevin Durant. That's kind of a rule of thumb for me. But the reason I say that Ace can still be a really good player is because he's listed at 6'10". He's probably 6'9". Shoots over 41% from three.
I was going to say, I think he's like 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah, I agree. I think he was listed at 6'8" in high school. So I think you're getting a little bit of the college basketball inflation there, which is okay. But yeah, I don't think that he's that big of a wing. But he's a bigger wing in terms of height. He is a 96th percentile shooter on guarded catch and shoot jumpers. That's incredible. His ability to shoot over contests really is impressive. He's got great footwork off the catch. So, like, he does have that ability to be an elite catch and shoot weapon. I want more of those shots coming from beyond the arc than I do inside the arc. Give me more threes, fewer long twos. Give me more off ball than rising up off the dribble on ball. But that's the foundation of his offensive game to me. And he has the tools to be a plus defender. I think that he does. He has the length. He's averaging over a steal and a block a game right now. I think that it's going to be a question of how much does he lock in, how much does he commit to that end. But that's his path to success. It's being an elite shooter. If you were going to draw a comparison, like an MPJ light offensively, I would say. And MPJ is another guy who a lot of people thought was going to be that on-ball star. And it's like, no. MPJ, once he was in college, once his back was shot, couldn't get by people, wasn't very comfortable handling. MPJ is also literally one of probably the 5 most gifted three-point shooters I've ever seen, and he is bigger than Ace, so I'm not saying that he is going to be MPJ offensively, but MPJ also had 0 playmaking feel. That's the sort of mold, and then he can be a plus defender. And that could be a really good player, but that's not Cooper Flagg. It's not close to Cooper Flagg in terms of floor or ceiling. So I think there are multiple tiers between these guys as prospects.
I think I like Ace Bailey more in like last year's class. Like, I think he would be probably
He'd go number one in
prospects.
last year's class,
yeah.
But fucking Risa Shea went number 1. So what does that say?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I do think there's a chasm between the two. I agree with a lot of what you said. The first word that I wrote down for Ace Bailey was tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, you watch him and you're like the way
He
I
had
look at it.
39 the other day. He didn't create an inch of separation.
Exactly. Like, I walk into the gym playing pickup sometimes. It's like, oh shit, man, this dude hit a fading corner 3. That's tough as fuck. It's not the best look. Mm-hmm. I'd much rather have an open look at the rim because that's a much more efficient shot, right? Yeah. I'm okay with you shooting that shot because it's not a high percentage look. And so I like Ace Bailey. I wrote down a lot of what you said. The first thing is I think his ideal role is as an off-ball scorer. I think that is his ideal role.
Yes, 100%.
After the advantage is created. I think he's a good catch and shooter. I think you're looking at a guy that could be a really good closeout attacker and spot up guy, like bad closeout. He jabs and gets to the rim or something like that. But it's after the initial advantage is already created for him. And I think he's got really good verticality. I think if he committed to be a hard screener and roller, you're looking at a guy who could be a really impactful roll man too. But it is on ball where I have those issues. And I'm just not sure that he impacts winning at a high level. I think he can be a bad decision maker. He is a frustrating watch sometimes when, I mean, and again, there's levels to this, but like if I was a teammate of this dude and I'm watching him take a contested mid-range jumper over two guys while I'm sitting there wide open on the wing with an easy catch and shoot three, that would rub me the wrong way as his teammate, where you're taking, I don't care if it, I guess I do care if it goes in. If it goes in, I'd be like, that's a bad shot. And my bad, Ace. My fault.
PG
My fault.
moment.
But it's like, that's thinking results oriented, right? And I would rather him in that situation. You've drawn two defenders. I would rather you just kick the ball out instead of taking that dumbass shot, because that's not a good shot if you make it or not, right? So that's frustrating, but he is a tough shot taker and tough shot maker. And that's the thing, is that sometimes I feel like the way Cooper reads and reacts to the defense, I feel like Ace doesn't sometimes. I feel like he'll just drive, or he'll telegraph his decisions. He'll have an idea of what he wants to do sometimes going into the play, and then he'll do it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have an idea of what you want to do when you get the ball. You should, obviously. But it's like when you're playing the game,
be flexible. You have to react. It's a read and react game.
It's the key word. Exactly. I'm reacting to what the defense does, and then I'm making them pay. You shouldn't go, oh, well, regardless of what this defender does on the closeout, I'm going to do a tween step back three. Well, he can react to that and play D, right? You should be reacting to him. And so, look, I think he's going to be a 20-point per game scorer in the NBA. I think Ace likes shooting the ball. Yes. I think Ace is going to be a 20, but that's not necessarily, and that's the thing with like a men, right? Oh, how is he a good offensive player? He doesn't score 20 a night. There's levels, and it's like, I think Ace is going to take enough shots with whatever team he's going to be on to get the volume. Is he going to be efficient? Is he going to be impactful in other areas? I don't know. What do you think about these comparisons? I think, who did you say? You said like MPJ Light.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarity. But
I think there's a good comp. I wrote down Big J.R. Smith. I wrote down Brandon Ingram Light, and then I wrote down like better offensive Jabari Smith Jr. That's kind of what he reminded me of. Did any of those any of those ring a bell to you?
I've seen the Jabari Smith one, and I think that there are some broad similarities in terms of getting sucked in by tough shot makers who don't necessarily have that ability to create advantages. Now, I would say it was even more drastic with Jabari.
I agree.
Jabari really didn't have wiggle. Jabari really wasn't comfortable handling. I was also more confident in Jabari being a really high-end defender than I am in Ace, and Jabari's a little bigger. Both these guys, really good rebounders in college, but there's a reason that I thought Jabari was a very clear 3, because Chet and Paolo were crazy talents, and Jabari was just like a really, really good guy in that sort of 3-and-D mold. So there's some similarities there, but I also always viewed Jabari as a guy who would basically play as more of a 4, whereas I think Ace kind of views himself as more of a guard and could be more of a guard kind of guy. The BI one is interesting. I can see what you're getting at. BI is another guy who lives off of that tough shot making diet.
I think Ace is a little bit more athletic than BI.
Maybe a little bit.
At least as a vertical athlete.
Yeah.
I don't know about. I think they both lack that initial burst off the dribble.
And I would say again, BI, much better ball handler, has grown to be a really good passer, but was always a better passer than Ace. That's another part of what concerns me. But I don't think that those comparisons are like way off at all. I think that he's somewhere in the range of all these outcomes that we're talking about. I brought up MPJ. Again, I do think that MPJ a little bit bigger, a little bit more special as a shooting talent. That's another thing. Ace is 68% from the line, and he's 40% on those 2-point jumpers. So that's why I don't think you can have MPJ level confidence in him as a shooter, because the fact that MPJ shoots over 40% from 3 every year at his volume with his shot diet, what he does off movement, it's absolutely crazy. Ace does have more of like that sort of mid-post game, though. That is one aspect of his scoring diet that I like. he still ends up taking a lot of decently tough shots, but it's a way for him to use his size advantage to minimize the dribbling that he does and get himself solid shots within 15 feet or so of the basket. Something that we saw from Jabari some too as well, right? If guys aren't super comfortable with their handle, but they have the size and they have the shooting, they can turn to that. It's probably not your bread and butter at the next level, but it's a little something to have in your bag. But I totally agree. I mean, it seems like we're aligned. I think he can be a really, really good off-ball offensive
He's
player.
got to be. You agree with me though? I mean, he's got to be malleable, right? I mean, I don't
Yes.
think he can take this style to the league.
No, but I also think that it would be unfair to think that he can't be malleable, right? I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
college basketball teams need their best players to go out there and try to score and produce how they can.
It reminds me of like G.G. Jackson a little bit, how
Yeah.
he was at South Carolina, just because, I mean, he's taking like every shot, every possession for him.
Like Rutgers has two dudes, man. It's Ace Bailey and it's Dylan Harper, and they are responsible for everything. So he's so young. Like, I would like to be optimistic about his willingness to be adaptable and to play a style that is more conducive to him being successful in the NBA. And I also just don't think he'll have an opportunity to do this, right? He's not going to have the ball in his hands that much. It's funny, man. Like, you can always fall in love with the bigger dudes who can get themselves tough buckets, but then, you know, sometimes they're BJ Boston, sometimes they're Amani Bates. I think that Ace is clearly a better shooter than those guys. I'm not saying that Ace is going to be that at all, but I also don't think that he's close to level prospect that Cooper Flagg is.
I'm just not sold on the star aspect of it. I think
too many red flags.
Yeah, I think Ace could be a dependable, a good starter. I'm just not sold on the star ceiling just yet. But he's young too. Ace is really, really young as well.
He is. But like I said, man, people love the tough shot making. If you can't create advantages, you can't get to the rim, you don't have the quickness, you don't have the strength, you don't have the handle, and you are a zero as a playmaker right now, you're not being entrusted with the ball in your hands in an NBA offense. It's just not going to happen. So sounds like we very much agree on that. I'm excited to watch a lot more of the guys in this draft. Last year, what a bummer of a draft class, dude. Oh my God. I was thinking like 2023 was fucking insane, bro. Because you have Wemby and you have Brandon Miller and Amen and Scoot.
I think we are on... Carson, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think we are on a crazy trajectory of... I think the talent pool is Well, no, I think now that we've gotten over that hump last year, I think we are back on this... I think the players at the top are getting better, and I think the classes overall are just getting deeper and deeper. We are in a renaissance of sorts for young basketball talent.
Well, dude, this is what I felt about 2021, where I was like, okay, so we have a 6'6 plus ball handler with the skill that K does as a playmaker and a shooter, like, and the defensive tools. And then we also have a 7-footer with Evan Mobley's potential for offensive skill and his like generational defensive skill set. Holy shit, welcome to the new age. And Jalen Green, I thought, was a great scoring prospect. Then you go next year and it's like, we have Chet, this absolute unicorn two-way talent. And we have Paolo, this 6'10 super athletic bowling ball who has the skill.
Fucking Wemby. And
then we went 2023 and it was like, oh my God, Amen Thompson goes number 1 in a number of drafts. He's going number 4 this year, and we have the greatest prospect in 20 years in Wemby. And then last year happened. But yeah, I agree. I think that we're on the way back up. Basketball talent just continues to get better and better and freakier. Dudes are doing the things.
And the players have played so much basketball at this point. Like, it has been their entire lives. Like, these guys are just wired to hoop.
It's incredible. Like, guys are doing the things that we've seen from other players previously, but the guys doing it now are bigger and they're more athletic, right? Like, all of a sudden it's a 7'3 guy who is fluid and can shoot in the high 30s from 3, and it's these 6'8 jumbo ball handlers instead of 6'3 point guards. That's just the trajectory of the league, man. It's a league of freaks. And I'm very excited to see where things continue to go. League of Freaks, Logan. That could be an alternate name for our show, huh? Especially when we team up with the Pick a Side Boys. That's a real League of Freaks right there.